Hi guys, welcome back to the Return to Eden podcast. My name is Sophie, and it's been so long since I've said those words. I don't even know when I made the decision that I wanted to restart the podcast, but over the past few months, it's just been so heavy on my mind, and I thought, why not? So we are going to get into it all today. I want to reintroduce myself, reintroduce the podcast, tell you kind of why I stopped and what the plan is going forward. So whether you are a listener from the past or a new listener, welcome to Return to Eden. And if you're new, don't worry, I'll give you kind of a rundown on what the pod was and all the changes around here since then. So, welcome back. So, my name is Sophie. I live in Chicago. I'm originally from California, and when I used to be doing my podcast, I was living in California at the time. I'm not sure if I referenced that in my podcast, but I was living in my parents' house. I had just come back from Australia, and I kind of abruptly had to come back home and was trying to find something in lockdown to do, and everyone was doing a podcast, and it was never really about the podcasting for me. It was more so I had so much passion in my heart and soul for so many different things, and the topics that I would talk about: religion, health, wellness, spirituality, women empowerment, and sex, and talking about things that I felt were taboo or were just kind of kept under wraps as I was growing up. So I kind of wanted to talk about all that, and I also wanted to just talk to people about their experiences with spirituality and genuinely whatever they wanted to talk about. I was really interested in people's life experiences, and I'm still really interested in people's life experiences, and hopefully going forward I will have some really good guests on who can speak to whatever is on their heart, whatever their passion is. If you're new, Return to Eden was a podcast that I started kind of with the goal in mind of reconnecting people to their bodies, reconnecting kind of like a spiritual part of them back to reality, back to what they were actually experiencing, what their body was telling them. And I wanted to help people find wholeness within their mind and body and spirit. And this kind of came out of multiple things. It came out of my own personal spiritual experience. At the time that I was recording the podcast, I was actively going through a spiritual deconstruction from religion that I had been raised in my whole life. And so I found myself really passionate about talking about things that were kind of in between spaces. I was holding space for people who had all types of spirituality, and because I was holding space for all those things in my own head, I was figuring out what I believed, who I even was, how religion or spirituality fit into my life, my personality, beyond what I was just told. And it also kind of bred out of a love for natural health and experiences I had growing up where I had stress-induced symptoms. So I had all these symptoms, like gastrointestinal symptoms and stuff like that, because of trauma and stress. And so that kind of led me into figuring out, oh my gosh, how does the nervous system work? Hence why I am a neuroscience major today. And I also wanted to talk a lot about things like self-care and being a woman in this world, because that's my lived experience. So yeah, it's hard to explain what it was because I don't even think I knew what it was at the time. And looking back, I'm not even sure I knew exactly what it was. And that's exactly kind of the place I'm in with this podcast now. I think I'm not coming here with a very clear plan, which I debated for a long time because I was like, how am I going to start a podcast if I don't even know what I want to talk about? And then I was like thinking, and I was like, that is pretty characteristic of my personality. And for me, it's better to just show up completely who I am, contradictions and all, multiple interests and all, and just kind of put everything out there because people will relate to either the chaos of it all or little bits and parts of whatever I'm saying. So I will explain a little bit of my vision, but kind of my vision is organized chaos and just talking through the messiness of life, hence my slogan, embracing life's sweet and sour. But yeah, I'll talk more about my vision, my no plan vision in a little bit. But why did I stop the podcast? I didn't even make the conscious decision to stop the podcast. It just kind of naturally happened. I never sat down one day and thought about like, oh, I'm going to stop this podcast. I just kind of stopped posting and didn't pick it up until now. And I did post a little bit on Instagram after I stopped posting the podcast because I still was interested in all the things that I was talking about. But there are a few reasons why I stopped looking back. The major reason was that I was changing so rapidly during this time, particularly in relation to my spiritual beliefs. And I was changing so fast and learning so many things about the world, myself, etc., that I would put out a podcast and then listen to it, and a month later I wouldn't even agree with myself. And this was kind of creating a lot of anxiety in me because I didn't want people listening to the past versions of myself, even though I honored them and I still honor them now. It was really hard when you're like going through a deconstruction and then having your old opinions, freshly old opinions, out on a podcast that you put out a month ago. And then my deconstruction just kind of turned so personal. I mean, it's always a personal process, but I think for so long I carried this fire and anger at times that led into the passion of the topics that I was talking about. It led me to speak about things like comprehensive sex education and who I thought God was, etc. And I think I hit a wall in deconstruction that if you've been through, you know, which is I don't know anything. I don't know what is real. I felt like I was sinking in a black hole. And I definitely want to make a more longer deconstruction focused podcast episode because I was so impacted by the people around me talking about deconstruction at the time, because while I was going through it when I was younger, I felt like I didn't know anyone who was going through it. And then as I went through kind of my secondary deconstruction when I was 20, I did have people posting about it, and it was so influential to see myself in those people, to know that I wasn't alone, and to most importantly know that I wasn't crazy, that everyone or that other people were experiencing the same things as me was so important. So I definitely do want to talk about it. But when I was actively going through it, I did not even know what to say. And so there just became this disconnect in me between like the podcast and then what was going on in my personal life. And I feel like stopping it was really helpful for me to process all my emotions surrounding it, all my feelings surrounding it. And honestly, I'm glad I stopped when I did, even though I missed it so much. I loved talking to people about their own spiritual journeys, or their journeys with intuition or self-care or whatever they wanted to talk about at the time. And the other reason was that I just didn't want to be on social media. I've gone back and forth so many times between being on social media and not over the last 4 years, and I find it very difficult to keep up with being on social media. And so posting all the time and creating these posts was a great creative exercise, but I just was exhausted by it. And so yeah, I just kind of naturally stopped, and I think it was probably just some sort of divine or higher self intervention at the time to be like, process this on your own time, quietly and personally. And that does kind of reflect a shift that I had personally, where I just kind of shut into myself, and so much of that was so needed to not tell people my every thought I had, because it was so rapidly changing. But I'm really feeling like I've spent so many years being silent, so many years not expressing my full personality, so many years not being vulnerable, which is something that beforehand I felt like the queen of vulnerability. People would come to me because I was vulnerable. People would listen to me because I was vulnerable. And, you know, I think it just got too much. But now that my frontal lobe is almost developed, I feel like I have a good grasp on what to keep private and what not to, or what I can share. So those are some reasons I stopped the podcast, but I am so happy to be back. Did I reintroduce myself? I think a little bit, but I'll just do a little bit more. So I am a neuroscience student at ASU. I'm living in Chicago with my boyfriend. Okay, sorry if there was a slight change of scenery. My phone ran out of storage and I had to delete some apps. So I think I was saying I've been with my boyfriend for almost 5 years. It's like 4.5 now. And we have 2 kittens. And I am still working as a barista. I've been a barista for 6 years now, which honestly gives me a level of flexibility and freedom with my day that I really enjoy. So yeah, I feel like you'll just have to get to know me a little better if you don't know me over the course of the pod. Obviously, we're going to be real and vulnerable, so you'll probably get to know me really well, maybe too well. But yeah, so what is my vision? So I decided to keep the name for several reasons. I debated it because this is definitely not a religious podcast. It never really was a religious podcast, it was more about spirituality and connecting that with your body and just people's real life experiences. But yeah, I debated changing it because I didn't want people to think that this was a religious podcast. But I think one, that name means like so much to me because when I found out that Eden translates to pleasure was like so transformative for me. I literally got pleasure tattooed on my hip after I learned that. I really like the imagery of the Garden of Eden. I'm really fascinated by the Garden of Eden as a story, as a place, and I wonder in what ways we can create our own little gardens of Eden. Whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to be religious at all. But yeah, what does it mean to be in the garden of pleasure? Like, that sounds so exciting to me. And when I was first doing the podcast, I did get some questions from people talking about, or I guess concerns, comments, whatever, from people who were religious saying, well, the pursuit of pleasure is like, meaningless, it's emptiness, and I think that is not what I mean at all. Of course, we can be overindulgent. Of course, our chase for comfort and pleasure has led to things like capitalism. But as someone who grew up in a religion that encouraged suffering a lot of the time, I am reclaiming that word and embracing pleasure in all aspects of my life. I also think that particularly for women, we are discouraged from embracing pleasure, both in our sex lives, in our personal lives. We're discouraged from taking up space. And so to me, returning to pleasure means all those things. It means actually listening to our bodies. It means doing things that feel good, and that are good for not only ourselves, but our communities, each other. Because I don't know about you, but I don't find pleasure in causing harm to others. And to me, returning to this state of pleasure, returning to the Garden of Eden, would not mean overindulging and losing myself in pleasures, money, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever, those kinds of things. And it would definitely not mean disregarding the people in my life and just in my community who are suffering. That is not what pleasure means to me, and I don't think that the word would be complete. I don't think that my Garden of Eden would be complete without making sure that the pleasure that I'm feeling, I'm extending to other people. So that's a little bit why I kept the name. My goal for this podcast, obviously the slogan is embracing life sweet and sour, and that's because we are all on this roller coaster together, and it has some really, really, really sweet moments, and it has some really, really, really sour moments. So I'm here to talk about it all. I'm here to talk about things like feeling lost, maybe a little bit about my journey with OCD, and the traumas and burnout and exhaustion in capitalism that we all feel, etc. And I'm also here to talk about the really sweet things like the gift of friendship and all the things we can do in our day-to-day life to make our life just that much sweeter. Sweet and sour to me means bringing nuance back holding space for things to both be true at the same time. It means it is both true that people can have different opinions, and also true that sometimes having different opinions causes harm to one group of people, and that's not okay. There are so many aspects of life that are both sweet and sour, and I am here to embrace it all, to talk about it all. And not everything will be so deep, because sometimes we just need a break from the craziness and depth that some of us are feeling all the time. I am naturally a very deep person, deep emotions, deep thoughts, and so yeah, I need a break sometimes from that. So sometimes we'll just have a laugh. But yeah, this is a podcast about life in your 20s, because that's where I'm at. I hope to bring on guests, and my goal is for them to share their experience of being in their 20s, share their sweet and sour moments, and the differences between my story and theirs, because everyone is going to experience their 20s differently. Everyone's going to experience their lives differently, but especially in your 20s, which is such a transformative time of your life. So yeah, if any of that sounds like stuff you're interested in, I would love to have you. I am so happy to be back. Even just sitting here and recording this has been so fun for me, and I can't wait for you to hear from my wonderful friends and people I may have not even met yet. So yeah, thank you for listening to the Return to Eden podcast. You can always DM me on return.to.eden on Instagram. I don't know how much I'm going to be posting there, because I want to respect my boundaries with social media, and I don't want to get burnt out. I want to keep doing this. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.